My parents threw me out while I was 7 months pregnant, then locked the front door before I could pick up the baby blanket my grandmother had knitted. My mother stood behind the glass panel with tears on her face, but her hand never reached for the lock. My father stood beside her, jaw tight, eyes cold, acting like he had made a righteous decision instead of throwing his daughter onto the porch with swollen feet, 2 bags of clothes, and a child moving inside her belly. My brother Marcus watched from the stairs. He did not cry. He did not protest. He did not even pretend to feel sorry. He just smiled and said, "Maybe now she'll learn what shame feels like." Shame. That was what they called me. Not daughter. Not sister. Not family. Shame. My name is Naomi Bennett. I was 24 years old when my parents decided my pregnancy was an embarrassment too heavy for their house to carry. The father of my baby had left the moment responsibility entered the room. His name was Adrian Cole, and he had loved me loudly until the pregnancy test turned positive. Then suddenly, he needed space, prayer, time, and his mother's opinion. His mother's opinion was that I had trapped him. My parents believed her faster than they believed me. They said I had disappointed the family. They said I had destroyed my future. They said I had brought disgrace into a respectable home. But underneath all those words was another truth. I had always been the daughter they expected to be perfect, while Marcus was the son allowed to fail and still be called promising. Marcus could waste money. Marcus could lose jobs. Marcus could crash cars. Marcus could come home drunk at midnight and be called troubled. But I came home pregnant, scared, and honest, and suddenly I was a stain. That night, rain had started falling softly before dinner, the kind of rain that makes windows look sad. My mother had cooked chicken stew, but nobody ate much after I told them. I was shaking when I said, "I'm pregnant." My mother dropped her spoon. My father stared at me like I had spoken in a language he hated. Marcus leaned back in his chair and laughed once. "Wow." Just that. "Wow." My mother whispered, "For who?" "For whom?" I said automatically, because fear makes the mind grab strange habits. My father slammed his palm on the table. "This is not a grammar lesson." I flinched. "Adrian." My mother closed her eyes. "That boy from the consulting firm." "Yes." "Are you marrying him?" my father asked. I swallowed. "He says he needs time." Marcus laughed again. "Of course he does." I looked at him. "Don't." He lifted both hands. "I'm just saying what everyone knows." My father stood. "You are pregnant, unmarried, and the man is already running." "Dad." "No." His voice cut through the room. "No explanations, no excuses, no modern nonsense. You were raised better." Tears filled my eyes. "I know." "No, you don't know. If you knew, you would not be sitting here telling me you have turned this family into gossip." My mother began crying quietly. That hurt more than my father's anger. Because my mother's tears always made me feel guilty, even when I was the one bleeding. "I'm sorry," I whispered. My father looked at me. "Sorry will not fix your name." My hand moved to my stomach without thinking. "My baby is not a mistake." The room went silent. Marcus shook his head. "There she goes, already acting proud." I turned to him. "I am scared, Marcus, not proud." He shrugged. "Same thing with you." My father pointed toward the hallway. "Pack your things." I blinked. "What?" "You heard me." My mother looked up. "Leonard." My father did not turn. "She cannot stay here." My breath stopped. "Dad, please." "You should have thought of that before." "It's raining." "Then ask Adrian to come get you." "He won't." The words came out small. My father's face tightened, but not with pity. With disgust. "Then you chose poorly twice." My mother covered her mouth. Marcus stood and walked toward the stairs. I'll help carry her bags. Help. Even that word sounded cruel from him. I walked to my room like I was moving through water. The room still looked like mine. My books on the shelf. My work shoes near the closet. The small framed photo of my grandfather Ruth's husband, Samuel Bennett, sitting on my desk. Everyone called him Grandpa Sam. He had died 6 months earlier, and grief was still fresh enough that some mornings I forgot and reached for my phone to call him. Grandpa Sam had been my safest person. He was my father's father, but nothing like my father. Where my father was strict, Grandpa Sam was steady. Where my father cared about reputation, Grandpa Sam cared about truth. Where my parents saw Marcus's legacy, Grandpa Sam saw me. He used to say, "Naomi, you have a spine made for doors people try to close." I did not feel like that woman that night. I felt like a frightened girl, folding maternity clothes into a bag, while her brother leaned in the doorway watching. Marcus picked up the baby blanket from the chair. Grandma had knitted it years ago before she passed, yellow and white, soft as morning. "You taking this?" he asked. "Yes." He looked at it and smirked. "Cute, single mother starter pack." I stepped toward him. "Give it to me." He tossed it onto the bed, but before I could pack it, my father shouted from downstairs. "Naomi, now." I grabbed what I could. 2 bags. My handbag. My phone charger. A folder of documents. But not the blanket. I thought I would come back for it. I thought my mother would soften. I thought somebody would remember I was pregnant and afraid. They did not. My father opened the front door. Rain blew onto the porch. My mother stood behind him, crying harder now. "Mom," I whispered, "please." She looked at my stomach, then at my face. "I don't know how to defend this," she said. "Defend this." As if I were a court case, she did not want to lose. I looked at my father. "Where am I supposed to go?" He said, "You are an adult." Funny. I was not adult enough to make a mistake without punishment, but adult enough to sleep outside. Marcus placed my bags on the porch. "Good luck." I looked at him. One day, I thought. I did not know what that meant yet. Only that something in me had begun making a record. My father stepped back and closed the door. The lock clicked. That tiny sound became one of the loudest sounds of my life. I stood on the porch in the rain, one hand on my belly, my baby moving inside me like she knew the world outside had turned cold. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Naomi Bennett? This is Daniel Hart, attorney for Samuel Bennett's estate. I need to speak with you immediately. Your grandfather left specific instructions concerning you." I stared at the message through tears. Grandpa Sam. Estate. Instructions. I called the number with shaking hands. A calm male voice answered. "Ms. Bennett." "Yes." "Are you somewhere safe?" I looked at my parents' locked door. "No." There was a pause. Then he said, "Tell me where you are. Your grandfather prepared for this possibility." My breath caught. "What possibility?" Mr. Hart's voice softened. "That your family would turn against you before they realized what he left behind." Before they realized. Those words were the first light in the rain. Because my parents thought they had thrown out the family disgrace. They did not know they had just locked the door on the person Grandpa Sam had left $1 million to. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight. And if your family has ever pushed you out because they thought you had nothing, stay with this story. Because sometimes the person they reject is the one carrying the inheritance they were never meant to control. Mr. Hart did not sound surprised when I told him where I was. That frightened me. People should be surprised when a pregnant woman is standing in the rain after being thrown out by her parents. But he only asked for the address, told me not to go anywhere unsafe, and said a car was coming. A car, I whispered. Yes, your grandfather's instructions were very clear. My grandfather died 6 months ago. I know. Why are you calling now? Because certain conditions in his estate plan were triggered today. Triggered? It sounded like something from a locked box. I stood under the porch light, shaking from cold and shock. Rain tapped against the roof. My parents' curtains moved once. Someone was watching. Probably my mother. Maybe Marcus. Maybe both. Nobody opened the door. 15 minutes later, a black town car pulled up in front of the house. My father opened the door then. Not fully. Just enough. His face showed anger first. Then confusion. Who is that? I did not answer. A woman stepped out of the car with an umbrella. She was tall, black, maybe in her 40s, wearing a dark coat and the calm expression of someone used to entering storms professionally. Ms. Bennett, she asked. Yes. I'm Grace Monroe. I work with Mr. Hart. Let's get you warm. My father stepped onto the porch. Who are you? Grace looked at him. Someone who arrived before decency did. My father's face darkened. This is a family matter. Grace glanced at my bags, my wet clothes, and my stomach. No, sir, this is now a documented matter. My mother appeared behind him. Naomi, who is this woman? I looked at her. I don't know yet. Marcus came to the door, frowning. Why is there a car? Grace picked up one of my bags. Because your grandfather had better judgment than the people in this house. My father stepped forward. You cannot just take her. I almost laughed. He had just thrown me out. Now he wanted authority over who took me. Grace looked at me. Ms. Bennett, do you want to come with me? The question hit me hard. Do you want? Not you must. Not get in. Not obey. Do you want? I nodded. Yes. Then let's go. My mother started crying again. Naomi. I turned to her. The rain had soaked my hair. My dress clung to my body. My baby pressed against my ribs. You lock the door, I said. She covered her mouth. I walked down the steps. Marcus called after me, "Don't think this makes you special." I stopped beside the car and looked back. For the first time that night, I smiled. Not because I was happy. Because something in his voice sounded afraid. I don't have to think anything tonight, I said. Grandpa already did. Then I got into the car. Grace placed a blanket over my shoulders and handed me warm tea from a thermos. I cried as we pulled away. Not because I wanted to go back. Because leaving a family house still hurts, even when the family inside has failed you. Grace took me to a private women's residence owned by a charitable foundation I had never heard of. It was not a shelter in the way people imagine. It was a quiet, secure home for women in crisis, with clean rooms, warm food, nurses on call, and staff who spoke gently without acting sorry in a way that made you feel smaller. They gave me dry clothes, a hot meal, a room with pale curtains. A doctor checked my blood pressure and the baby's heartbeat. When I heard that steady sound, I broke down. My baby was okay. For a while, that was the only fact I could hold. Mr. Hart arrived the next morning. He was in his 60s, with silver hair, brown skin, and a leather briefcase that looked older than some buildings. Grace came with him. They sat across from me in a small meeting room while I held a mug of ginger tea with both hands. Ms. Bennett, he said, I am sorry for what happened. Did Grandpa know? He paused. Your grandfather knew your family very well. That answer hurt. Because yes, he did. Grandpa Sam had watched my family for years, watched my father praise Marcus for potential and criticize me for perfection, watched my mother excuse cruelty as tradition, watched Marcus take and take and take while I learned to give before being asked. Grandpa saw. I remembered one afternoon 2 years earlier, sitting with him on his porch while he shelled peas into a metal bowl. He asked, "Naomi, if your father had to choose between your comfort and Marcus's pride, which would he protect?" I had laughed nervously. "Grandpa." "Answer." I looked away. "Marcus's pride." He nodded. "Good. Never lie to yourself about a pattern. It makes you slow when you need to move." I had not understood then. Now I did. Mr. Hart opened his briefcase. "Your grandfather left you several things. Some are sentimental, some are financial. The most important is a $1 million trust established for your housing, health care, education, child support, and long-term stability." My hands froze around the mug. 1 million. Yes. I stared at him. My father knows. No. My mother. No. Marcus. Mr. Hart almost smiled. Definitely no. I leaned back. The room tilted slightly. Grace reached for the mug before it slipped. Mr. Hart continued gently. "Your grandfather structured the trust carefully. Your father has no control over it. Your mother has no control. Your brother is specifically excluded from management or benefit." Specifically excluded. That sounded like Grandpa Sam. Why didn't he tell me before? He wanted you to make your own choices without pressure. But he also knew there was a risk your family would reject you if your life did not fit their public expectations. The trust contains an emergency activation clause. If you became pregnant, ill, abandoned, displaced, or otherwise cut off from family support before receiving full disclosure, we were instructed to contact you and intervene. I started crying again. He knew they might throw me out. Mr. Hart's face softened. He hoped they would not. He prepared as if they might. That is real love. Not trust without caution. Love with preparation. Mr. Hart slid a sealed letter across the table. "From your grandfather." My fingers trembled as I opened it. The handwriting was his. Strong. Slanted. Familiar. My Naomi asterisk. If you are reading this now, it means your family has forgotten that love is supposed to shelter before it judges. I am sorry. I wanted better from my son. I wanted softer courage from your mother. I wanted manhood from Marcus. But wanting does not make people become what they refuse to practice. You may be scared, you may be angry, you may feel ashamed. Do not confuse their rejection with God's opinion of you. A child is not shame, a woman in need is not shame. Cruelty is shame. Abandonment is shame. Hypocrisy is shame. I have left this trust to you because I trust your heart and your mind. Use it carefully. Do not hand it to the people who threw you away. Do not buy love from anyone who needed your suffering before they remembered you. Build a home. Protect the baby. Finish your plans. And when they come back, because they will, ask them what changed, their hearts or their knowledge of your money. I love you. Grandpa Sam. I folded the letter and pressed it to my chest. For the first time since the door locked behind me, I felt like someone had come back. Not my parents. Not Adrian. Grandpa. Through paper. Through planning. Through love that had outlived him. Mr. Hart let me cry. Then he explained the rest. The trust would pay for safe housing immediately, medical care, legal support, prenatal needs, counseling, education or business development, a monthly allowance, long-term investment. The principal was protected. I could not drain it impulsively, and nobody could pressure me into signing it away without layers of oversight. Your grandfather was very clear, Mr. Hart said. The trust is not to become family rescue money. I laughed through tears. He knew Marcus. He did. Can my parents challenge it? They can try. They will have difficulty. Will they find out? Eventually, yes. Some documents must be processed, but not before we secure your immediate needs. I placed my hand on my stomach. My baby. Yes, Mr. Hart said. Your child is also protected. Those words changed the room. My child. Protected. Not shame. Protected. Over the next 2 weeks, my life moved faster than my heart could follow. Grace became my support coordinator. She helped me find a doctor, a therapist, and a temporary apartment. Mr. Hart handled legal documents. A financial trustee named Denise Carter joined the team and explained everything slowly, clearly, with no judgment. I moved into a small but beautiful 2-bedroom apartment near a park and a hospital. The nursery had pale yellow walls. When Grace asked what color I wanted, I cried because I remembered the blanket I had left behind. The yellow one, I said, like the blanket. Grace arranged for a handmade, yellow and white blanket from a local woman. It won't be the same, she said. No, I whispered, but it will be hers. I also sent one message to my mother. I am safe. Do not contact me unless you are ready to speak honestly. She replied within minutes. Naomi, come home. Your father is upset. We were only trying to make you understand consequences. I stared at the message. Consequences. They threw me out pregnant and called sheltering myself avoidance. I did not reply. My father sent. You embarrassed this family by leaving with strangers. I almost dropped the phone. By leaving with strangers. Not by being forced into the rain. By accepting rescue. Marcus sent from a new number. Don't think Grandpa's lawyer makes you important. I stared at that one for a long time. So he knew something. Maybe my father had mentioned Mr. Hart. Maybe they were starting to worry. I blocked him. Adrian called 3 weeks later. Not because he suddenly became responsible. Because he heard I had moved somewhere nice. Naomi, he said, voice smooth, we need to talk. I stood by the nursery window, watching rain fall over the park. No, we don't. You're carrying my child. I know. I've been under pressure. I know. My mother got involved. I know. I never said I wouldn't help. I laughed softly. You said you needed time, then you stopped answering. I was scared. So was I. Silence. Then he said, I heard your grandfather left something. There it was. Not how are you? Not is the baby okay? Not I'm sorry. I heard. My grandfather was right. When they come back, ask what changed, their hearts or their knowledge of your money. I closed my eyes. Who told you? People talk. No, greedy people investigate. He exhaled sharply. Naomi, don't be hostile. If you have resources now, we can plan properly. Marriage might be back on the table. Marriage. Back on the table. As if I were a business deal that improved after funding. I placed one hand on my stomach. Adrian, the table is gone. His voice hardened. You can't keep my child from me. I won't. Legal parenting arrangements can be discussed through my attorney. Attorney. Yes. You're making this ugly. No, I'm making it documented. He hung up. Good. Mr. Hart filed the necessary notices establishing communication boundaries. Adrian would have rights as the father, but not access to me, my home, or the trust. He requested a paternity and custody process after the baby's birth, mostly because his mother pushed him. Fine. Structure was better than promises. My parents found out the full truth a month before my due date. I know because my father showed up at Mr. Hart's office, demanding a meeting. Mr. Hart did not allow him past reception. Then my mother called Grace crying. Then Marcus began sending messages through cousins. Then Aunt Linda called me and said, Baby, did Sam really leave you $1 million? I sighed. Hello to you too, Aunt Linda. She paused. I'm sorry. Hello, are you okay? That was better. I'm safe. I'm glad. Silence. Then she said, Your parents are losing their minds. Because they threw me out. No, baby, because they found out what they threw out. That sentence settled deep. What they threw out. Yes. The daughter became visible when the dollar amount arrived. My father requested a family meeting. I refused. My mother sent a long letter by email. It began, Naomi, we have always loved you, but we were shocked and hurt by your choices. I stopped reading. But we were shocked. That was not an apology. That was a courtroom opening statement. Mr. Hart read the full letter and said, emotionally crowded, legally useless. Vivian Hart, his niece and another attorney on the team, laughed from across the room. Vivian had joined the matter after Adrian appeared. She was younger than Daniel, sharper in style, and spoke like a woman who could turn a boundary into furniture. She said, your family is going to approach in waves, first guilt, then religion, then concern for the baby, then claims that Grandpa Sam would have wanted unity, then financial emergency. Prepare yourself. She was right. Wave 1, guilt. My mother sent. I have not slept properly since you left. I replied once. I did not sleep properly the night you locked the door. Wave 2, religion. My father sent. Honor your father and mother. Vivian drafted my reply. Parents are also instructed not to provoke their children. Please direct further messages to counsel. I did not send it, but reading it made me laugh for the first time in days. Wave 3, concern for baby. My mother wrote, a baby needs grandparents. I replied, a baby needs safe adults. Wave 4, Grandpa Sam. Marcus wrote through Brianna. Grandpa would hate seeing you split the family. I sent Brianna a photo of Grandpa's letter with only one line visible. Do not hand it to the people who threw you away. She responded, I understand, I'm sorry. Brianna had not been home the night they threw me out. She lived in another city. She had believed my mother's first version that I stormed out after an argument. When she learned the truth, she called me crying. I should have asked you first, she said. Yes. I'm sorry. For what specifically? For believing them, because it was easier than imagining they could do that. That was honest. I accepted it. Slowly, Brianna became the only family member I allowed near me before the baby came. She visited with groceries, washed tiny baby clothes, and cried when she saw the nursery. Yellow, she whispered. I nodded. For the blanket. Her face crumpled. I found it. My breath stopped. What? She opened her bag and pulled out the yellow and white blanket Grandma had knitted. I went home and took it from your room, she said. Mom said you didn't need it because you had new things now. I told her the baby needed what belonged to her mother. I took the blanket and cried so hard Brianna had to sit beside me on the floor. Sometimes healing comes as a sister, carrying what your mother left behind. My daughter was born on a quiet Tuesday morning after 19 hours of labor. I named her Ruth Naomi Bennett. Ruth after my grandmother. Naomi because I wanted her to carry my name not as burden, but as proof that I survived before she arrived. When they placed her on my chest, everything else fell away. The rain. The porch. My father's anger. My mother's tears. Marcus's smile. Adrian's cowardice. The money. The trust. All of it became distant. She was warm. Tiny. Furious. Alive. My baby. Not shame. Miracle. Brianna was in the room with me. Grace was there too. My mother was not. My father was not. Adrian arrived the next day after Vivian informed him through legal channels. He cried when he saw Ruth, and I believe the tears were real. Real tears do not always mean real character. He held her for 10 minutes under supervision, then asked if we could talk privately. No, I said. He looked wounded. I'm her father. Yes, That is why we are arranging parenting properly. His jaw tightened. Everything has to be legal with you now. I looked at my newborn daughter. Yes. He left angry, then returned later with a softer tone. That became his pattern. Push. Fail. Soften. Try another door. None opened without paperwork. My parents saw Ruth for the first time through a photograph Brianna accidentally showed my mother. After that, my mother begged to visit. I said no. Not forever. Just no. She sent gifts. I returned them. She sent money. Returned. She sent a long handwritten apology. This time, I read it. My daughter, I failed you. That was a better beginning. She wrote that she had been afraid of what people would say, afraid my father would grow colder if she defended me, afraid Marcus would mock the family, afraid of church gossip, afraid of the baby becoming proof that she had not raised a perfect daughter. Then she wrote, I chose reputation over shelter. That is the truth. I read that line several times. It was the first sentence that sounded clean. No but. No because. No shared blame. I agreed to meet her 3 months after Ruth was born. At Vivian's office. Not my apartment. Not my parents' house. A neutral room with tissue boxes and legal gravity. My mother arrived wearing a simple gray dress. No pearls, no church hat, no performance. She cried when she saw me holding Ruth. But she did not reach out. That mattered. May I see her? She asked. I nodded, but kept Ruth in my arms. My mother stepped closer. Her face crumpled. She is beautiful. Yes. She looks like you. Good. My mother smiled sadly through tears. Then she sat across from me. I am sorry, she said. For what specifically? Vivian asked gently before I could. My mother took a breath. For standing behind the door while your father locked it, for crying instead of opening it, for calling your pregnancy shame, for worrying about church people more than my daughter and granddaughter, for believing you had ruined the family when we were the ones who failed you, for only understanding the size of our mistake after learning about the trust. That last one. I looked up. She continued. I wish I could say the money did not change how urgently I wanted to reach you, but that would be another lie. When we found out, I panicked. Not only because of the money, because I realized your grandfather trusted you more than we did. Tears filled my eyes. My mother cried too. I'm ashamed, she whispered. Good, I said softly. She flinched, then nodded. Yes, good. That was the first meeting. She did not hold Ruth that day. I was not ready. But I let her touch Ruth's tiny foot. My father took longer. Much longer. He refused to meet at Vivian's office at first. He said he would not be treated like a criminal. Vivian said, then he should stop auditioning. Eventually, he agreed. He came alone. That surprised me. No mother. No Marcus. No church elder. Just my father in a dark suit, looking older than he had the night he threw me out. He saw Ruth sleeping in her carrier and froze. For a moment, his whole face changed. Not softer exactly. Broken open. She's small, he whispered. She is a baby. He swallowed. Naomi. I waited. He sat down. I was wrong. Yes. He looked at Vivian, then back at me. For what specifically? I asked. He closed his eyes. For throwing you out while pregnant, for letting anger and reputation matter more than safety, for saying you chose poorly twice, for locking the door, for not asking where you slept, for telling people you left on your own, for treating Marcus's failures with more mercy than your fear, for forgetting that a father shelters before he judges. That last line hit hard. A father shelters before he judges. I wondered if Grandpa Sam had said something like that to him. Maybe. My father opened his eyes. When I learned Dad left you the trust, I was angry. At Grandpa. At you, at him, at myself. I thought he had insulted me by trusting you. And now? He looked at Ruth. Now I think he knew I might fail. Silence filled the room. Then he said something I did not expect. I would like to repay the hospital costs. No. He looked surprised. I am trying to help. You can start by not using money to skip accountability. His eyes filled with tears. My father did not cry easily. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it. You can only become someone safer. He nodded slowly. Will you let me try? From a distance. He accepted that. Marcus did not apologize. He demanded. First through texts. Then through cousins. Then through my parents. He claimed Grandpa Sam's money should have been divided fairly. He said he was the grandson carrying the Bennett name. He said my pregnancy had triggered emotional decisions. He said I was manipulating old documents to punish the family. Vivian handled him with joy. A formal letter reminded Marcus that he was not a beneficiary, trustee, guardian, manager, advisor, or relevant party to the trust. It also warned him to stop contacting me indirectly regarding money. He responded by showing up at my apartment building. I had moved again by then into a small house purchased through the trust near a quiet park. He did not know the address. He went to my old building and shouted at the doorman until security called the police. He texted Brianna. She thinks because Grandpa left her money, she's queen now. Brianna replied. No. She thinks because we threw her out, she needs locks now. I loved her for that. Eventually, Marcus came to a meeting at Vivian's office. Not because I wanted reconciliation. Because Vivian wanted a record. He walked in wearing sunglasses and resentment. Where's the baby? He asked. Not here, I said. Scared of me. Protective of her. He scoffed. Vivian sat beside me. Marcus looked at her. You lawyers are loving this. Vivian smiled. I love clarity. You keep providing it. He turned to me. Grandpa lost his mind at the end. I stood up. Vivian touched my arm, but I remained standing. Say one more disrespectful thing about Grandpa Sam, and this meeting is over. Marcus leaned back. He left $1 million to a woman who got herself pregnant and embarrassed the family. The room went cold. I picked up Ruth's diaper bag from beside my chair. Meeting over. Marcus stood too. Truth hurts. I looked at him. No, Marcus, truth heals. Cruelty repeats itself and calls that honesty. He pointed at me. You always thought you were better than us. No, I always hoped you were better than this. That shut him up for half a second. I left. Vivian sent him a stronger notice the same day. After that, Marcus did not get near me for almost 2 years. Those 2 years became the foundation of my new life. The trust gave me stability, but it did not raise my daughter. I did. With help from Grace, Brianna, the women at the residence, and later a nanny I trusted deeply. I finished a certification in healthcare operations that I had delayed for years. I started consulting part-time from home, helping small clinics improve systems. I used some trust funds to launch Bennett Care Systems, a company focused on patient scheduling, staffing workflows, and maternal health support. Pregnancy had taught me how quickly women could become vulnerable when family support collapsed. Motherhood taught me how badly systems failed women who were expected to heal, feed, work, and survive without structure. So I built structure. My first clients were small clinics that served pregnant women, single mothers, and low-income families. We helped them reduce wait times, improve appointment reminders, coordinate transport referrals, and connect patients to legal and housing support. People said, You turned pain into purpose. I did not love that phrase at first. Pain should not have to become useful to be respected. But eventually, I understood something. Purpose did not excuse what happened. It gave me somewhere to put the fire. Ruth grew into a bright, serious little girl with her grandmother's eyes and my stubborn chin. She loved yellow blankets, mango slices, and sleeping with one hand tucked under her cheek. Adrian became a part-time father. At first, inconsistent. Then better after court orders made parenting less optional. He married someone else eventually, not quickly. His mother never liked me again, mostly because the trust made it impossible for them to pressure me. Good. My parents earned small access over time. Small. Supervised visits. Short calls. No money discussions. No comments about shame. No religious lectures. No asking to speak to Mr. Hart. My mother became better first. She showed up with humility and asked what Ruth needed instead of assuming. She learned to say, "May I hold her?" She asked about my work. She cried sometimes, but stopped expecting her tears to control the room. My father was slower. He loved Ruth immediately, but I did not let love erase memory. The first time he held her, his hands shook. He whispered, "Grandpa is sorry." I corrected him. "Grandpa is what she will call you only if I decide you have earned it. For now, you are Leonard." He looked wounded, then nodded. "I understand." He did not. Not fully. But he learned. After 1 year of safe behavior, he became Grandpa Leonard. Not Grandpa. Grandpa Leonard. Names matter. Marcus remained outside. Completely. My mother begged once. Ruth should know her uncle. I said, Ruth should know safe people. He has changed. No, he has become quieter because he lost access. She cried. I did not bend. Then, when Ruth was 4, Marcus changed for real. Or began to. His wife left him after he drained another business account. My parents refused to cover the debt because, for once, they had been learning boundaries from the daughter they once threw out. Marcus moved into a small apartment and took a regular job in warehouse management. 6 months later, he sent me a letter. Not a text. A letter. I let Vivian read it first. She said, "Less awful than expected." That was high praise from her. The letter said, "Naomi, I am not writing to ask for money. I am writing because I have repeated the same sentence in my head for years. Maybe now she'll learn what shame feels like. I said that while you were pregnant and being thrown out. I thought I was defending the family. I was enjoying your fall. That is the truth. I hated that Grandpa saw you clearly. I hated that Mom and Dad worried about your disappointment more than mine, though I got more mercy. I hated that you could build things without being praised first. I am sorry for the door, for the blanket, for the words, for demanding money, for saying Grandpa lost his mind. He didn't. He saw us. I am ashamed. I know shame now, not because I lost money, because I saw myself." I read it 3 times, then cried. Not because everything was healed, because he had finally named himself. I agreed to meet him once. At a cafe. Vivian nearby. Marcus looked thinner, older, and less shiny. He did not wear sunglasses. He did not joke. He sat with both hands around a cup of coffee. "Thank you for coming," he said. I nodded. He looked down. "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" I asked. He breathed out. "For smiling when Dad threw you out. For saying the woods." "That was another story," I said dryly. He blinked. Then we both almost laughed. Wrong betrayal. Same family flavor. He corrected himself. "For saying maybe you'd learn shame. For not giving you the blanket. For using your pregnancy to feel superior. For acting like Grandpa's money should have been mine. For trying to reach you after you said no. For making Ruth's existence about family reputation instead of her life." That was specific. Painfully specific. I nodded. I hear you. Can I meet her one day? Not now. He nodded. Okay. That okay mattered. The old Marcus would have argued. This one accepted. Maybe he had grown. Maybe shame had finally become a teacher instead of a weapon. My relationship with my parents continued in careful steps. When Ruth turned 5, I hosted a small birthday party in my backyard. Yellow balloons, a little cake, children from school, Grace, Brianna, my parents, Mr. Hart, Vivian, and a few close friends. My mother cried when Ruth blew out candles. My father stood beside the garden, watching quietly. After the party, he approached me. I thought about the night we threw you out, he said. I looked toward Ruth playing with bubbles. I think about it too. I don't know how you let us stand here. Neither do I some days. He nodded. That is fair. Then he said, your grandfather would be proud of you. I looked at him. He was proud before the money mattered. My father closed his eyes. Yes. That yes was not enough to erase the past, but it was enough to show he no longer fought the truth. Years later, Bennett Care Systems grew beyond anything I had imagined. We served clinics in multiple states and partnered with maternal health nonprofits. I created the Samuel Bennett Shelter Fund for pregnant women abandoned by family or partners. It provided temporary housing, legal help, medical support, counseling, and baby supplies. At the opening of the first residence, I stood in front of a small crowd holding Ruth's hand. She was 6 and wearing a yellow dress. Behind us, the sign read, Samuel House, Shelter Before Judgment ***. I chose those words carefully. My father cried when he saw them. My mother sobbed quietly. Marcus stood at the back, invited for the first time to a public family event in my life. He did not approach Ruth. He did not ask for photos. He simply stood there and listened. I spoke into the microphone. My grandfather believed that love should prepare shelter before crisis arrives. This house exists because too many women are judged before they are helped, punished before they are protected, and shamed before anyone asks if they are safe. A baby is not shame. A woman in need is not shame. Abandonment is shame. The crowd applauded. My mother lowered her head. Good. Not because I wanted her humiliated. Because truth had finally entered a public room. After the ceremony, she came to me. I heard him in your words, she said. Grandpa. Yes. I nodded. He wrote most of them in my heart. She cried again. This time, I hugged her. Not because the past was gone. Because the present had changed enough to hold the moment. My parents threw me out pregnant. Until they realized who my grandfather left $1 million to. People often think the lesson is simple. They rejected me poor, then wanted me rich. That is part of it. But not the whole truth. They rejected me when my life no longer made them look good. They returned when my life became protected by money they could not control. The money did not make me worthy. It revealed that their judgment had never been about morality alone. It had been about power. When I was pregnant and dependent, they felt free to punish me. When I became pregnant and protected, they wanted conversation. When they thought I had nowhere to go, they locked the door. When they realized Grandpa Sam had built me another door, they called it family misunderstanding. That is the lesson. Watch how people treat you when they think you have no options. That is their character. Watch how they return when they learn you are protected. That is their calculation. And watch what you do next. That is your healing. If you are listening and you are pregnant, afraid, rejected, abandoned, or being told your life is shame because it does not fit someone's image, hear me clearly. Your life is not over. Your baby is not shame. Your fear is not failure. You deserve safety before lectures. You deserve shelter before judgment. You deserve support without humiliation. And if the people who were supposed to protect you become the storm, Find the people who know how to build roofs. Call the safe friend. Call the lawyer. Call the clinic. Call the shelter. Call the auntie who tells the truth. Call anyone who cares more about your safety than the family story. Do not stay on the porch begging a locked door to become love. Sometimes love is waiting in a car sent by someone who saw the pattern before you were ready to name it. Sometimes love is a letter, a trust, a blanket returned by a sister, a baby's heartbeat, a new apartment with yellow walls, a lawyer saying, "Document everything," a grandfather who is gone but still protecting you through paper. Today, Ruth is 9 years old. She knows some of the story. Not all. Enough. She knows Grandpa Sam helped us when I needed safety. She knows families can make mistakes and still have to earn trust back. She knows money is a tool, not a measure of worth. She knows her mother does not open doors just because someone knocks with the word family in their mouth. She also knows love can grow again, carefully. My parents are part of her life now, with boundaries. My mother teaches her old songs. My father helps her build little wooden birdhouses in the backyard. Marcus met her when she was 7, after years of effort and therapy. He cried after she left the room and said, "She has your eyes." I said, "In Grandpa's protection." He nodded. No argument. Adrian remains her father, structured and present enough. Not perfect, but the court orders became habits, and some habits became care. Brianna is Ruth's favorite auntie because she sneaks mango candy into her purse and tells her, "Your mother is strong, but don't let her carry all the groceries." Good lesson. Grace is family now. Mr. Hart retired, but still attends every Samuel House anniversary. Vivian says she will never retire because fools keep signing things. She is probably right. In my office, I keep 3 things framed. Grandpa Sam's letter, a photo of Ruth wrapped in the yellow and white blanket, and a small note Vivian wrote on the day my parents first requested a meeting after learning about the trust. Do not confuse their urgency with love. I needed that note then. Sometimes I still do. My name is Naomi Bennett. My parents threw me out pregnant. My grandfather left me $1 million. But the greatest inheritance was not the money. It was the warning, the protection, the belief that I deserved shelter before I had to prove anything. And when the people who locked the door came back asking to be let in, I finally understood what Grandpa Sam had been teaching me all along. A door is not only something people close on you. Sometimes it is something you learn to control from the inside.